the Sunshine State. This is Tampa Bay's Tan Talk.
It's time for FLALAW, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Paranick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. This hour will be informative, along with taking your questions and comments. Now, here are your hosts for today's show.
That's right. We are back with FLALAW live on the radio. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you are a faithful listener and you know that FLALAW comes to you live every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And I am here with a special co-host who I'll introduce in a minute. I'm very, very excited for tonight's show. We're going to be going over some summer tips and safety for all the kiddos that are out of school this summer. We know that we're just about halfway through the summer. We've got about 6 weeks remaining. I know that might be sad news for any kids or teachers that are listening, but we are only about 6 weeks left in the summer, but a lot can happen in those 6 weeks, and we obviously want all the students and teenagers and college students that are home for the summer or, spending more time, at the pool, at the parks, on digital devices, and all those types of things, that they're being safe when doing so, because I know that just about everyone listening can probably think of stories and sad things that have occurred, injuries and accidents for children who aren't necessarily being the most safe when they're at the pool or they're riding the bike, especially with e-bikes and scooters and just all the different things. So this is going to be a fun summer show for our kiddos. But before I get into the format for tonight's show and to talk about who I have here live in the studio with me, I want to, of course, let everybody know how to continue to listen in and share for tonight's show. We are, of course, live on the air. Hopefully you're tuning in from your radio, 106.1 FM and AM 1340. So if you're getting in your car, that's a way for you to listen along for the next hour. But we also are streaming, so I want you to know all the different ways that you can continue to listen to our live stream. And you can leave comments in the stream, and also we'll read those if you have any questions or comments to add about our summer safety show tonight. You can do that on Facebook or YouTube. So to make that clear, there are two ways you can do that. If you search Paranick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes Injury Lawyers on Facebook or YouTube, you should be able to find the live stream now. You should see a red circle around our logo that lets you know that we are live. And if you click on that, either on Facebook or YouTube, then you'll find the live stream. You'll see us in the studio. And you can, like I said, you can leave your comments or questions in the comment section, and we'll read those out throughout the show. If you have some summer safety tips for the students that are out of school during the summer, things that maybe you've observed or put into practice with your own children that you find to be effective to make sure everyone's safe this summer, feel free to add. We'd love to hear from you. You can put those comments in the chat box, or you can call in. The number to call into the studio tonight is 727-441-3000. Again, our call-in number tonight is going to be 727-441-3000. That's how you call in if you have any questions for me or my co-host tonight. And with that being said, I would love to introduce you to who I have here with me in the studio. Probably the most beautiful guest that I've had ever. My own daughter, my 10-year-old, who is here with us tonight. So I figured who better to help us talk about summer safety tips than somebody who is obviously dealing with these things themselves and trying to learn and navigate the best ways to be safe. And I want her to obviously be a leader and not a follower, and be able to help her friends and other people stay safe, because there's a lot that goes on in the summer. Kids, like I said, are riding their bikes, they're playing in the pools, they're going to water parks, they're on e-bikes and scooters, or they're spending a lot of time on the internet in, chat groups and things like that, or they got some firework plans coming up on the 4th of July this weekend. So there's a lot of different things that can happen and can go wrong if you're not being safe. So that's why it's really important that kids hear from not only adults, but somebody their own age who might be able to help give them helpful tips. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody what your name is?
Okay, so my name is Mikayla.
Okay, Mikayla, and how old are you?
I'm 10 years old.
And what are you going to be here to do tonight?
I'm going to be basically helping other kids and adults learn about safety summer tips.
Okay, perfect. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have her come on, because she was lucky enough to be selected as one of the students that get to do the morning news announcements at school next year. So she needs a little bit of practice over the summer to help her get used to talking and being an announcer, because she'll be reading the school news and broadcasting out through over the school not every morning, but some mornings you'll be on the schedule to do that. So what better way to get her acclimated to that by practicing with Mom today? So it's an unofficial take your child to work day. And she's unofficially here with me and going to be discussing some of these important topics, things that she knew about herself, but also things that she's looked up and found some helpful tips for our listeners tonight. So we'll start a little bit easy, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of it. I think one of the biggest things I think a lot of kids do in the summer is go to the pool, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think is one of the most important summer safety tips about swimming or going to the pool?
Well, first you should be with an adult, especially if you know you cannot swim.
Right.
And make sure you wear your life jacket, and also ask your parents if you guys can get into some swimming lessons.
That's a good idea. It's very, very important, especially if you own a pool or you live near a body of water, and just living in the state of Florida, we're surrounded by water all the time. Swimming lessons are very, very important. I know sometimes there's a lot of free programs throughout the county at the rec centers that do offer free swimming lessons or at low cost. So if they're not entirely free, you don't qualify for the free lessons, you may qualify for low cost swimming lessons. And it's a wide age group, so you could be from infants and toddlers all the way up to much older kids who may not know how to swim. Because out of everything that you mentioned, I think that's one of the biggest keys to being safe around the pool is, of course, learning and knowing how to swim, because drowning, unfortunately, is a big problem that we have here in the state of Florida. And sometimes that can come because kids don't know how to swim, but it also can come in other ways of like horseplay and things like that. Do you have any tips about, how you should act and conduct yourself when you're at the pool?
Yes, so a lot of kids get super excited when they go to the pool and they have a friend or they make a friend and they start playing underwater games and stuff, and they get too wild and start dunking each other, pushing each other under the water,
right?
And they might not be able to swim, so they could drown. So my tip is just make sure you don't put your hands on anybody underwater or above water, so it can be more like safe.
Mm-hmm. And what if they can swim? So you mentioned, that they might be horse playing and not know how to swim, but kids that know how to swim can still be in danger when they play like that, right? Mm-hmm. Do you know why?
Because it could be a deeper body of water, or they push them down under the water for a long period of time.
Right.
So, and some people might not be able to hold their breath that long. So they could lose their breath or drown and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they could hit their head. A lot of times, the pool, the edge of the pool, the bottom of the pool, these are all very concrete structures. People can hit their head if they're horse playing, and there's all kinds of kids jumping around and splashing. You may not even realize that somebody didn't come up out of the water because you guys are playing and having fun, and somebody doesn't realize that maybe another kid hit their head, or they slipped and they fell, or something got caught and they weren't able to come out of the water, and you won't realize it until after all the horseplay is done, which is why it's a good idea not to play in such a rough manner, right? Mm-hmm. And we're always walking around the pool, right? Should anybody be running and chasing each other around the pool? They should?
No, I'm agreeing.
You're saying that they should? I said, should anybody be running or chasing around the pool?
No.
Exactly, because what can happen when you do that?
Someone could like slip and fall because like there's always like puddles of water.
Mm-hmm.
They could slip and fall, hit their head, or like slip.
Because that can even happen even when you're not running. So you definitely don't want to add to the risk by running and chasing someone, especially older kids like you who are, the Big 10. If younger kids that are like 5 and 6, if they see the big kids running,
they're going to take influence.
Right, and they're going to run and they're going to fall, and that could easily cause them to slip into the deep water. And someone might not notice that they're even there, And if they fall in and no one's paying attention, that could lead to drowning, right? Mm-hmm. Sadly, like I said before, Florida has one of the highest rates of childhood drowning in this country, which is why our state does have very specific pool safety laws. And this is obviously for the benefit of our listeners who have residential pools and homeowners. They're generally required to have at least one approved safety feature, such as a fence that's at least 4 feet high around the pool with a self-closing, self-latching gate, a pool safety cover, or alarms or doors or windows leading to the pool area. So those are some of the safety measures that you have to have in place as a residential pool owner. So if you realize that maybe your fence is broken or your alarms aren't working, the latches aren't on your pool, or your pool, you had to remove your pool cover and you don't have one right now, you have to have at least one of those things in place to be in compliance, especially with pools that may be open and able to be seen, because kids can wander in. They can get access maybe if they sneak out and they're able to get into your pool. You want to make sure that you have all those measures in place, that your fence around it is high enough, that the latches are locked, so that if there is a child that wanders, those things are in place, because we do hear a lot of sad stories about drowning, especially even more now when we hear about children that are on the spectrum, and they get out and they're able to wander off, and unfortunately they do sometimes end up in bodies of water and they don't make it. And so that's something that we want to always be aware of, having safe pool safety features all summer long. There was a sad story I saw recently about a social media influencer, a father who does, I guess, family type content about his family, and sadly he lost his 2-year-old daughter, who I believe drowned in their own pool at home, and she was only 2. So I don't know the circumstances of how the little girl was able to get into the pool, but when you have these kind of things at home, mom and dad, grandma, aunts and uncles, that you have, we have those type of features, then these kinds of things can be avoided. If you have alarms, if you have latches, if you have fences, then 2-year-olds cannot get into that area without there being some sort of measure that protects them. I hear we do have a caller on the line. All right, Kevin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for calling into FLALAW on the radio. Do you have a question for us?
Yes, I'm calling from Fishhawk, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so my question I wanted to ask is, of course, kids are home with their parents and their loved ones that are being taken care of. Mm-hmm. What type of advice should we give kids if they see their parents need medical attention?
Oh, yeah.
And they asking for help? What type of advice we should give a kid how to handle that?
That's a good question, because kids are home right now and their parents may be at home, they're working from home, they're not at school, and they may be the only ones there that are with their parents. So, Mikayla, do you have a tip for Kevin who's calling in? Can you think of anything? If you were in that situation and you're home with your parents, what would you do? You don't have a phone? You don't think you would call a neighbor? think you're just a little bit nervous because you're on the spot. What would you do? You have cell phones? Would you run outside? Would you call a neighbor? What would you do?
Maybe go and, like, if I didn't have a phone or any device near me, I would probably go outside and, like, scream for help.
But you right?
I would probably call 911.
Yeah, that's probably the best advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think they can get a response quick enough, correct? If it's a really, really young child, Kevin, obviously we would recommend that they try to find an adult. So if there's a neighbor, someone they can go next door to find. But if they're old enough to know 911, all parents should definitely teach their kids how to dial 911 or how to alert SOS if they have an alarm system or something. So if that happens and mom and dad can't communicate and the child wants to help, they know how to call emergency services. Does that help?
Yeah, so it's a good recommendation to make sure, like, your kids know your password for your device,
They
right?
can get in, yeah.
Where something happens, they can get in, right?
Yeah, or that they at least know how to activate the SOS feature if the phone is locked. Teach them how to do that.
Well,
No, thank you. I appreciate you for calling in our summer safety tip show.
we think 'cause we're grown. Yeah, we think we're grown. That nothing can happen to us because, we're taking care of the child, but things can happen, right? So
things can happen, absolutely. Well, thank you for
thank you
calling in.
so
I hope
much
that
for the
answered
tip.
your question. Thanks, Mikayla,
yeah,
for helping
thank you
me.
so much for the advice.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Mikayla.
You're welcome.
So that's a very good point. So, a lot of times kids are home with their parents during the summer. If they're not at camp or summer school and things like that, they have to be the ones that are kind of there if something ever happens to mom or dad. So we talk about kids that fall into the pool or get hurt at the pool. Things can happen with our parents too, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know it took you a little minute to think about it, but you should be grabbing that phone. If something happens to me, I want you to dial 911 right away. Don't freeze up, So kids out there, if you don't know how to use your parents' phone or if you don't know what to do, this is a good time to talk to them about that because you want to be able to reach them. That way, if you have an emergency, you can call, you can get, whoever emergency contact is to come over right away. Ambulance can come and assist. And even if you're with friends. So sometimes you're out with friends and one of your friends get hurt and you don't know what to do. These are the plans that you should put in place. When you're out with your buddies and you're hanging out, you should know who's our emergency contact. Who do we call if something happens, if we get in trouble or someone's trying to get us to do something that we don't want to do and we need a ride, we want help. You should always have a plan in place. Talk to your parents, sit down and ask them, Mom and Dad, what should we do in these situations? Have safety words if you're somewhere and you don't feel comfortable, but you don't want to say anything out loud on the phone over the phone. Maybe you feel like that person may know what you're saying and you want to have a safe word. You can do that too. I've heard families that have that kind of a situation where maybe the kids are hanging out or they're sleeping over at someone's house, but they don't feel safe. They can call their parents and say a safety word and the parents know to come pick them up immediately or something like that. So that is a great tip. Thanks, Kevin, for calling in and giving us that information. So any other pool rules or pool safety tips that you can think of before we move on to our next topic, Mikayla?
Leaving a child alone when they're like at the beach or like in the pool, even if they know how to swim very well, you should still keep an eye on your kids because they could wander off into the deeper depths of the pool, or they could go out and play with other people and then other people can snatch them.
Oh yeah, especially nowadays, that's very important. Let's say this is a tricky question, so I want to see how you're going to answer this. Should parents, is it okay for them to leave if they have like maybe an older brother or sister watching them?
No.
Good. You actually answered that correctly. A good question. Good answer, because I think some people would say, oh, well, the older brother and sister can watch out for them and they'll be fine. I think, but nowadays, I'm sorry, but these older brothers and sisters, they're in their cell phones. They're distracted. they're doing everything but keeping an eye on their younger siblings. I'm just going to be honest. And so it's not always, the older kids are not always capable of having the same attention or reasoning to have the same judgment, I should say, as maybe a parent or an adult. So although it may seem safe to leave your kids with an older sibling, it's probably best not to, because nowadays kids are so frequently distracted and they don't have the same judgment and knowing when to let kids do certain things and when not to. And did we mention life safety vests? I thought you had some tips about when to wear that you had found. The life jackets.
The life jackets. Oh yeah. So children should wear life jackets. It's confirmed by the U.S. Coast Guards because
Do you still have it on your phone?
I think so. Let me see.
Because you were telling me something about anytime they're around certain bodies of water that they should wear that or something around like that, or do you remember?
They
if you
should.
don't have it, that's okay.
Well, I do have it memorized.
Okay. What was it?
They need to wear it, like you said, anytime they're in the pool, or like especially like a deeper depth of a pool. They need to wear it because like the waves could get stronger.
So you mean like in the ocean or other bodies of water, like
Yeah.
not pools? Okay.
Or maybe like if they're in a wave pool and they still don't really know how to swim.
Okay. All right. So if they're riding on a boat, they're on a jet ski.
Yeah, if they're in a boat,
Okay.
they need to wear one.
Okay, good advice. Good advice. I'm going to go ahead and shift gears because we've been seeing this a lot lately too. Especially in the summer, a lot of kids ride their bikes. They're on their e-scooters, e-bikes. These are things that are really, really popular right now. And before I get to Mikayla's tips for being safe on bikes and e-bikes and things like that, I wanted to take a look at what's going on in our legislature right now. So Ed had brought it up to me, our producer, and I just took a look to kind of see what the status was. And it looks like it got vetoed. So there was a bill that was going up to the Senate to try to regulate the speed of some of these e-bikes, because we've obviously seen, so many accidents, so many crashes, people driving them recklessly, modifying them so that they can go super fast. And it's becoming problematic. And so there was a bill that had gone up through the legislature to try to regulate this and setting a speed limit for the e-bike. So from what I can see, it looks like it says Governor Ron DeSantis has hit the brakes on that bill that would have regulated the e-bikes in Florida. Surveillance of Floridians is part of what formed his decision to veto that measure, which was Senate Bill 382. It looks like it just got vetoed on June 25th, and what it would have done was establish a 10 mile per hour speed limit for those e-bikes and other micro mobility devices within 50 feet of a pedestrian. And then, of course, e-bike riders would have to yield to people on foot and to make some sort of an audible noise, such as a bell or voice when passing them. And anybody that violated that would be getting a non-moving traffic violation punishable up to a $30 fine. So it looks like they were trying to establish a task force for these types of incidents. And let's see what other regulations they may have had. They were looking into minimum age requirements or some sort of licensure, registration, that sort of thing, in order to be able to operate the e-bikes, which of course is not in place right now. Let's see. I'm trying to see if we have a little bit more from what DeSantis said about it. So based on his veto letter, it looks like he's felt that violators would be guilty of a non-moving traffic violation and subject to fines up to $100 that inevitably be enforced by speed detection and surveillance devices. So I guess that's how they were going to monitor the speed and things like that. And so I don't think that he was a fan of that type of surveillance over Floridians. Let's see. Certainly, I don't want to do anything that's going to lead to more surveillance. I understand that law enforcement has a job, but do we really want to have policing of e-bikes? Are you going 10 miles per hour, 8 miles per hour, or whatever? I just think it was a little bit of an overreach. So that bill is dead. I think they'll probably have to tweak it. My guess is it'll probably come back in a different format, and that they'll probably change some of the regulations, but I don't think this will be going away anytime soon, because we do need to have some regulation with how these bikes are street legal, if you will, because they're like little mini motorcycles at this point, the way they're being used and driven at such a fast rate. And we're seeing a lot of accidents and injuries. So obviously at your age, you're a rising fifth grader, Mikayla, almost in the fifth grade. So I don't think you may see as many kids your age with e-bikes, but some do. But we want to talk about bikes in general and e-bikes and scooters this summer, because we want everybody obviously to stay safe and not be injured over the summer break. Are there any tips that you have for these types of issues when we have riding your bike or using scooters? Is there something specific that you think kids should be doing?
Well, first, in general, the summer weather is basically in Florida is really hot, so I think you should wear sunscreen.
Oh, that's good. That's smart.
And the UV, and then I think that they should wear protection on their knee pads, elbow pads, and
Good
the
point.
little. I don't know what they're called, but for their head.
You don't know what the thing is called that you put on your head when you're riding a bike? Oh my goodness.
I haven't rode my bike in a long time.
Yeah. A bike helmet.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, girl. But yeah, you're not a big bike rider, so I guess I can't fault you for that. But this is the most important thing that you should be wearing, especially, I was having a conversation with someone about this recently, if you're on these e-bikes, depending on the speed that your e-bike goes, you may have to wear special helmets for that. Sometimes what they're suggesting is motorcycle grade helmets, because if you fall at that rate of a speed, or you get hit and you hit the head with just a basic bicycle helmet, it may not do or be as effective as it should be, because of the level of speed that you're riding at. So helmet. You have to protect your head. You want to prevent serious injuries, traumatic brain injuries. I don't care how they look. If you think it's cool, it's not cool, wear a helmet. That's how you're going to be the safest when you're on a bike or an e-bike or an e-scooter. Always have a helmet, right?
Yeah.
It's cool to wear those, right?
Because it's not cool to be in the hospital.
It's not, exactly. I'd rather be on my bike with a helmet than in a hospital bed somewhere.
Yeah.
So what about devices, using devices while you're on these types of things?
Okay, so this is basically related to when you're driving a car. You shouldn't be on your phone while you're driving a car, especially if you're on the highway and there's there's not a lot of traffic. So if you're on your bike or your e-bike and you're riding on it and you're scrolling on your phone, texting people, you could easily run into a pole, easily run into a tree, easily run into a gate or a person that's walking up the same way as you. So what I think is you should put the phone down.
Absolutely.
And be cautious of where your surroundings. If you really want to text, get to a good stopping point, text or call or watch some videos, keep on going where you're going. Because I think texting and driving is not cool, because again, it's not cool to be in the hospital or have a broken arm or a broken bone.
Right. And what about distractions? What about things like headphones, listening to music? What do you think about that? Is that safe?
No, not really. But what some people think is, it doesn't matter, because when my mom drives in the car, my dad drives in the car, they listen to music, they turn it up loud and they're driving. It's not the same thing. Headphones is different, and then like a radio is kind of, they're not the same thing. So,
because it's not as easy to hear what's going on around you if you have on headphones, right?
So like, if, let's say, you were looking at a dog right there while listening to music, someone else on the other end could be saying, hey, get off the road, there's a car coming, and you easily crash into them because you're looking at a dog with blasting music in your ear.
If someone's honking at you to try to get your attention, or there is a, screeching, someone slamming on their brakes, you won't be able to hear those sounds if you've got AirPods in, or your Beats headphones or whatever on your head. You can't hear all those traffic cues, and it's put you more at risk of being hit, right? That's why you need all your senses when you're riding your bike or you're walking down the sidewalk. You need to be able to see, hear, everything, right? Exactly. So it's cool to wear your helmet, but it's not cool to have on headphones. So when it comes to the helmet rule, I just want to make sure I'm specific that any child under the age of 16 is required by law. So it's not just about being cool, it's about following the law to wear a properly fitted bicycle helmet when riding a bicycle, a scooter, a skateboard, or similar non-motorized vehicle wheel devices. Helmets do significantly reduce injuries, folks. It's not just about, whether you look good or not, or, so forth. It's there for a reason. It's to keep you safe and your kids safe from getting serious head injuries. As we know, e-bikes, they're popular. Everyone likes them. They're a lot of fun, but they're faster. They're heavier. They are not like traditional bikes, and the injuries are going to be a lot more significant on those. So parents should remember same rules of the road apply to e-bike riders as they do with general bikes. I don't see a lot of kids obeying those laws and rules. So parents, have those conversations with your kids about how to safely ride those e-bikes, what gear to wear, what not to do. Don't have in headphones. Don't cut people off. Don't go out in the middle of the road. Use the crosswalks. Those are important tips, and you want to make sure you're telling your kids that when they're getting out on these bicycles. Anything else about bikes, scooters, or e-bikes that you want to give them tips about? You think you have anything else, Mikayla?
A little bit. So if you have a parent driving, for the parents, if you are driving a car and someone does something rude, they're not supposed to do in driving, and they're acting like they don't know how to drive, please teach your kids the right way how to drive, and not just say, hey, get out the way.
Okay. All right. Good tips. It's probably a good spot to take a short commercial break. You obviously have been listening to FLA Law live on the radio. We will be back with our 10-year-old tipster who's giving us summer safety tips and the law in Florida. And we'll be back after this short break.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
After a car accident, there are many questions that you need answers to. Who pays for my car repairs? Who pays for the medical bills? What about my lost wages? And more. The personal injury law firm of Bryant, Caulfield, Averill & Noyes has been answering these questions for their clients for nearly 70 years. Since 1955, they've been a voice of the injured in the legal system. As one of the longest established law firms in Tampa Bay, Bryant, Caulfield, Averill & Noyes is here to answer your questions. Listen to their live call-in radio show on this channel every Tuesday evening from 5 to 6 p.m. or call them at 727-796-8282 or visit them at voiceoftheinjured.com. Offices Clearwater, non-attorney spokesperson.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we are back from that short commercial break.
Very short.
You're listening to FLA Law live on the radio. Thank you for tuning in. As you know, this is your live legal call-in talk show. We are here every Tuesday at 5 o'clock discussing different legal matters that affect Floridians all across the state. Of course, we do like to focus in on personal injury law because we are the personal injury lawyers of Parent, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes, who host this show every Tuesday. So we thank you for joining us. And tonight you have our special guest who's giving you her radio debut, my 10-year-old daughter who's on summer break, and she is here giving you tips for your kiddos who are home for the summer to keep them safe during these next few weeks of the summer. We know that a lot of things can happen. There can be accidents and injuries, especially the type of activities that kids are involved in the summer. There's just a lot of risk involved if they're not being safe. And so we've already covered the pool. That's kind of the big deal. A lot of beach and pool and water parks. That's usually the things that kids enjoy the most, especially in this Florida heat. And we've talked about also safety when it comes to riding on your bikes and e-scooters and things of that nature. So definitely, if you missed that first part of the show, do not fret. This show will be posted later on, of course, Facebook, YouTube, and all podcast platforms. So Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. So that way you can go back and listen to the beginning of the show if you missed it. But to continue to listen in, because we got some more tips we're going to talk about. Obviously, kids are out going for walks. They're going to the park, or they might be at the beach, and they're walking to the beach and from the beach and different things of that nature. There'll be a lot of internet gaming and activities going on. And then, of course, we can't forget this weekend, it's the 4th of July. The 250th year of the United States of America. So there'll be lots of fireworks celebrations and displays. People tend to obviously do their own fireworks at home a lot on this particular holiday. So there's some safety tips that we're going to touch on when it comes to those things as well. So welcome back to the show. And of course, Mikayla, my daughter, is here giving us some tips for those that are listening. All right, so let's go back to, being safe when we're walking. So I hope kids are getting out and being active and they're not at home glued to those devices and those screens, and they never get out. We want to get out of the house and touch grass, right? So hopefully kids are going for walks. I don't see as many kids walking these days, but I do see a lot on bikes and scooters and things like that. But, walking to the park, going to the store, or, walking to the beach, things like that. What are some good tips that you have, Mikayla, for kids that are crossing the streets and how to be safe pedestrian?
So I know like a bunch of kids when they're crossing the streets like with bikes and stuff. I know they're probably on their phones scrolling, not listening and stuff. So they could be walking across the road and stuff, not seeing that cars
looking
are blurring. They're just scrolling, and then they probably have earpods in walking and stuff, scrolling on their phones, and they're not seeing that a car is like zooming past, and then they could like get hit by a car because they keep on scrolling on their phone.
So what's your advice then, what they should and shouldn't do?
So if you're going to take your phone, especially if you're by yourself, you need to like keep it in your pocket maybe, especially if you're walking across. You need to like put it somewhere safe, like bring a backpack, bring a purse or something, or like wear pants or shorts that have like pockets, put it in there or something, or don't bring your phone at all.
Okay.
Because that could lead to car accidents and accidents where kids get hit by cars because they're not paying attention because they're on their phones and glued to their screens.
All right, so you're guilty of this, but I appreciate that tip. So then no looking at your phone, looking down on the phone when you're crossing the road, right? When you're crossing the street, or when you're in a parking lot where cars are moving around, you shouldn't be looking down at your cell phone, right?
No, you shouldn't be looking at it at all.
Good tip. What do teachers, obviously you're getting ready to go to the 5th grade. Do you remember what your teachers have taught you about crossing the street or what maybe mom and dad have taught you about safely crossing the street?
Look both ways, of course. Like, you need to look both ways. Because if you don't look both ways, you could be walking, and not see a car coming straight at you. There could be a car coming from different directions, front, side, and the other side. You just need to pay attention to where you're going, because I know plenty of people do not want to get hit by cars.
So is there a certain way you should look? Do you remember the rule about where you should look first, or how that goes?
I mean, it doesn't really matter where you look.
Yes, it does. There is a rule.
You have to look. You can either look right or left, but you're supposed to look both.
You're supposed to look right, left.
The left or left and right. And then forward, because sometimes there's there's a street and a car can come forward.
Right. I think it's left, right, and left again, right? I believe that's the way it goes.
Or both 2 times.
Yeah, so you should look back both ways and then cross, right? So you shouldn't just be looking to the right because someone could be coming from your left, and vice versa. You shouldn't just look to the left because someone could be coming to the right. So it's always good to look both ways twice, then you proceed to cross the street. Is there a specific place that you should go in the roadway to cross?
It's mostly the sidewalk, but sometimes the roads don't have sidewalks because you could be taking a stroll or a walk in the middle of the road. So try to get to the side a little bit, maybe on the grass or something. But please don't get on someone's property. But try to get on the grass or somewhere safe, because you can't be walking all up in the road when people are trying to drive or slowly.
You mean when there aren't any sidewalks available?
Yeah, okay. You're taking up other people's times. But if there is a sidewalk, you need to go to the sidewalk for your safety.
Okay, but what about when you're trying to get from one side of the road to the other? Should you look for any specific spot?
A crosswalk.
Exactly. Thank you. That's the question that I was trying to get to. So you shouldn't be crossing the road in the middle of the street, in places where there aren't any crosswalk markings, because drivers are not expecting people to cross the street at those points. And even if you think it might be safe and that there's no cars coming, if you go out into the middle of the roadway and you're not in the crosswalk, then someone may not anticipate that that's what you were about to do. But when you're at the intersection where you know that there's, the crosswalk markings, you know what I'm talking about, that painted area, then it's easier for drivers to see you there as a pedestrian, right? Exactly. So what about colors? If you're walking and it starts to get dark and people are driving, is it easier for them to see you when you're wearing certain colors? Do you know that rule?
If you're so honestly, if I were gonna take a walk, and by the time I probably get back home, it would be dark. I think I would probably wear bright colors like those construction workers wear, or the people who help the students walk across the road.
The crossing guards.
Yeah, the cross guards wear a bright colors like neon orange, really bright yellow, bright colors so they can see, oh yeah, that child's walking. Especially if you're short, they need a bright color.
Yeah, that's great advice, because it's all about helping drivers to see you as a pedestrian. And this isn't just for children, this is for adults as well. Because I've seen a lot of adults that are guilty of, walking around at night and they're wearing all black. Maybe they just got off work and they're in their work uniform and they're in black shirt, black pants, black shoes. And they're harder to see at night, especially if you're in an area that's not very well lit. There aren't a lot of street lights and you're walking in all black. A driver may have a hard time seeing you in the roadway. And so that is very, very good tips for kids, to make sure if you're going to be out and you're walking around and you're and it's getting dark out, and you want to make sure you have on bright colored clothing, white. As Mikayla mentioned, you may not have a crossing guard uniform, but if you have colors like green, yellow, orange, something that's going to be easy for drivers to see. That way they're able to see you coming when you're walking down the sidewalk or you're getting ready to cross in the crosswalk. and you don't make yourself blend into the darkness. So it's very important that you try to be mindful of that sort of thing. The good thing is during the summer, people do tend to wear bright colors. So that's just something to be mindful of when you're walking around at night. Now, there's another tip I want to see if you can think of when you're walking around as a pedestrian. Is there something else you should try to do before you cross the street? We talked about looking both ways, but is there anything else?
So usually when there's a crosswalk, there's other cars coming and waiting. So I think you should wait until the car comes and then look both ways and stuff, and make sure there's no other cars, then you can walk, because you want that car to be safe and you want yourself to be safe. So if you walked while the car was coming, you could also get hit, and then the driver could get hit. So I think it would be nicer if you guys just wait
for each other?
Yeah.
You actually said it in a different way, so you're technically 50% right. So what I was getting at, and you actually kind of made the point, just didn't quite say the words I was wanting you to say, is you make eye contact. So if you see a car is coming and they're driving up and you're sitting there waiting, you want to try to make eye contact with that person that's driving, because that way you know they saw you, right? If you think, oh, they see me, they're getting ready to stop, and you just start going out into the road, what if they didn't see you there and you thought they did?
And they kept on driving.
So that's why it's best to look, wait, make sure they acknowledge you. They'll look up at you. Maybe they'll give you a nod, or you see them looking at you. I see you, you see me. Now you can safely cross the street. But if you're distracted or they're distracted, they're looking down, those sorts of things, you may not have their attention and they could be distracted. So if you see that person's looking down, or maybe they're doing that, they're scrolling on their phone. We know that people are guilty of that. And you see them that they're not looking at you, then that's not safe to cross the street, should you? They can't hear you. Yes or no?
Can you say that again?
Yes, if you see a driver and they're looking down, scrolling on their phone, and they are not making eye contact with you, it's not safe for you to cross the street, is it?
No, it's not safe at all.
Exactly. Thank you. So make eye contact with your driver. If you're a pedestrian, you see a car coming, make eye contact first. Wear bright colors. Cross in the crosswalk. This is so important, especially on the beach. These sorts of things happen a lot with jaywalking. Kids are just walking, running across the street, trying to get over to the water. Pay attention. Use the crosswalk. And a lot of times they now have those great pedestrian crosswalks now that have the lights and the stop signs. Use those. That way you know people see you before you begin to cross the street.
And that should lead to strangers?
I don't know if we'll have time for that. We'll try to get to that very quickly, because I do want to also talk a little bit about fireworks, because we know people are going to be having a lot of fun on the 4th of July.
Oh, yeah.
So let's see. Do you have a really important tip about strangers that you want to talk to our listeners about?
Yeah. So that kind of the walking can lead to strangers, like walking alone and stuff, and there's other people there. Because there's a great chance that when you're walking, there's other people walking too. So when you're walking, just make sure you are aware.
Stranger danger, right? Mm-hmm. Just be very, very mindful. Not everyone is friendly. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. So kids, talk to your parents about who you should get in cars with, who you're allowed to take rides from, where you're allowed to go, where you're not allowed to go, and just be very mindful that every stranger is not necessarily going to be a kind or nice person. Now, we talked a little bit about this earlier before we got on the air. We had a brief conversation about games like Roblox and different things there. I know there's been lawsuits involving Roblox, because of its chat features that allowed children to be able to talk to strangers on those platforms, and there was no like regulation as to whether these kids were talking to kids or talking to grown-ups.
Yeah, like voice chat. There's two type of chats. Voice chat. They can actually, if you sign up for it, they can actually hear your voice. So like, if you have voice chat, you're gonna join a server with other people that have voice chat, so you can basically hear their voice and you're talking back and forth with them. And then Roblox did add this thing, but it's not that safe. They like make you take a picture of yourself to like see your age group. To verify your age, yeah. Which it's not accurate. Some older people, like 18, got put in like the 9 to 12 group. It's not accurate at all.
So if you look a lot younger than your age, then you might be able to get into younger age groups and talk to younger kids. Yeah.
Which then that could lead to their friends get their right age group, and then they can talk to their friends that they know in real life. Yeah. And it's kind of like sad.
Right, and there's just a lot of unsafe things that go on online. Kids become exploited, and so parents, there's not one, single Florida law that I can think of that covers, the online safety of kids. There are a lot of, federal laws and states and things that do protect children from online predators and exploitation. Cyber stalking is obviously a big deal. Cyberbullying, trafficking, there's all kinds of things that can come out of unsupervised online attention. So parents, just be very mindful of what your kids are doing online all summer long, making sure they're not sharing personal information, your address, what school they go to, phone numbers, people that they're meeting online, because a lot of times they don't know who these people are and they could be adults and not children. So just be very, very adamant with your children. Have good conversations with them about their online activity. Put all kinds of blocks on them, because I have that on Mikayla's phone. There's certain sites and things that they just can't do. You can shut down those chat features and make sure they just don't have access to that kind of stuff. Now, last but not least, do you have a single firework tip that you want everybody to remember for Saturday, the 4th of July, Mikayla?
Make sure, because I know some parents might not allow you to do the fireworks by yourself. Make sure you stay away from the fireworks. Don't get too close, because they could pop, crackle everywhere. And there could be an incident of firework cracking or popping everywhere, and then it gets on people. And
burn, serious injuries, damage to property, lives, limbs. It's all very possible this weekend. So everybody, keep your fireworks safely away from your homes, trees, bushes, especially right now because things are dry. They have a tendency to catch on fire. Keep water hoses, buckets of water near if you're going to do these displays at home. Make sure you have lots of water nearby. Stay away from your home and your structure. Don't light fireworks in your hands while you're holding them. That's so important. The amount of people kids, children, adults that go to the emergency room on the 4th of July is ridiculous. It's preventable. Thank you, folks, for joining in. Thank you, Mikayla, for joining me. Your first time on the radio with FLALAW, live on the radio. We will see you next week. My partner, Matthew Noyes, will be back with FLALAW on the radio next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Have a great 4th of July, folks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.